look at this here, you know, when you look at the lineup that these brothers put here today, I mean, it's almost like I don't even really have to do a lecture. I mean, the pictures are all speaking for themselves. The thing is that anybody who walked in this door today, they would look at these pictures and assume that this is artwork from Africa. You'd have to assume that this artwork is from the motherland. You can go all over Africa, east, north, west, and south, and you'll find faces like that from Egypt to South Africa, or Zania as we like to call it, West Africa, East Africa, everywhere you go in Africa, you see faces like that. And so anybody who is in their right mind, who walks in this door and see those faces, they'd have to assume that this was in Africa. So the fact that this is not in Africa, but this is in America, and every single one of them predates not only Columbus, but predates Christ in most cases, this is phenomenal. And so a lot of us, we take it for granted. We read the book, Unexpected Faces in America by Von Wutenau. We read The Ra Expedition by Thor Heyerdahl, The Black Discovery of America by Michael Bradley, and of course the novel work, The Work of Works, they came before Columbus by the man, the vanguard, the brother that brought it to my attention, the man who deserves all the credit for this particular area, the man who is really on the forefront and pursuing the issue when no one else would do it, Ivan Van Sertima in his book, They Came Before Columbus. So this is not a joke. No, this is not a game that we're playing here. We're talking about the history of our people. We're talking about the lies of the people on the planet Earth, the people who've told lies about African people, who said we had nothing to do with the development of civilization. Everywhere I've gone in the world, I've had to deal with people and their attitudes about black people, about our people. They look at us, we're the invisible man. You read the books. Nobody Knows My Name by Baldwin. The Invisible Man. We read all these books, and then you go right outside. I stand in line the other day. Just standing in the line, next in line, ready to pay for my lunch. The white woman looked right past me and asked the white boy standing right behind me, how many items did he have? I wasn't even there. Here's a cashier, a dumb cashier, looking past, and I've traveled all over the world, going everywhere trying to find the truth for our people, to bring back, to teach the truth to our people, and she can't even give me the respect of giving me the proper due of standing in line. I'm first in line, won't even ring my little vegetables up. Taught her how to grow vegetables. Didn't know rice grow in Europe. There was no watermelon and onions and garlic growing in Europe. Ancient Mama's on the pancake box because she showed the slave master how to cook. Uncle Ben is on the rice box because he cultivated the rice. He brought it from West Africa. Why do you think all these black people are on the boxes? The first schools that we developed, Tuskegee, Voorhees, all the schools back east were agricultural schools, bringing the knowledge from Africa of how to develop and cultivate the crops. The white man was dying at 30. You remember Ponce de Leon? He was looking for the fountain of youth. The Europeans, if they lived to be 35 years old, they were lucky. They were dying at 35. This is why at 17 and 18 and 16, they were out on the seas trying to learn navigation, trying to learn as much as they could, learn as quickly as they could, because they didn't expect to live very long. Syphilis and gonorrhea rampant throughout Europe, all the diseases that devastated Europe constantly. In fact, if it wasn't for the Great Fire in the 1600s, it may not have even been a Europe. In fact, I believe they may have even set that fire on purpose just to save England. But this is important that we start to look at our history. I remember years ago, I don't know how many years ago, I saw John Henry Clark say that he had inquired about African history and no one really seemed to know the answer. And in speaking to an elder, I forget who it was exactly, it may have been Arthur Schomburg, he stated that, I believe it was Arthur Schomburg, that when you look at European history, then you'll find our history. Because without our history, there is no European history. And so it's funny that the first great civilization, the first great high culture to develop in Europe was not in Scandinavia. It wasn't in the Aryan Germany, where the Aryan race was supposed to be the supreme race. The Germans didn't develop the first civilization in Europe. It wasn't in the Norway or all the nations of the north in Europe. It was in the nation that was closest to Africa. Not even on the mainland of Greece, but in the little islands that sprinkled throughout the Mediterranean world, the islands of Crete, Knossos, the Mycenae civilization. These civilizations were the first civilizations to flourish in Europe and to bring a sense of civilization to that particular land. Now, isn't it funny that when you find the first great monumental structures that come into America, the presence in America, that you find it on the Gulf Coast of Mexico, off the coast? Right off the coast, you find the first pyramid in America, dating back to 1200 BC in an area called La Venta. And in association, in conjunction with this particular pyramid, you find these faces. But the scientists, those people who study anthropology and archaeology and all the other ologies that go along with it, they choose to look past the faces. They all recognize, none of them have differed with this. They all recognize that this was a foreign people who had come into this particular land at this particular time. But they just refuse to look at the faces that you see here today. And if you walked in the door without knowing what we're talking about, you would assume that these are African sculptures. They refuse to look at even the possibility that it was Africans that came over to the Gulf Coast of Mexico. It's important. You know, I just want to say a few more things about this. You know, none of us really get anywhere without other people. You know, Ptah Hotep said, consult the ignorant and the wise, because the limits of art are never attained. Elbows are useless at the great chamber. You know, all of us must sit according to our rank and according to our seat. It's the respect of our elders, the respect of our ancestors that really gives us the power, the energy, and really the wherewithal to stand up and be somebody in this world. You don't need to walk in somebody else's shoes. You don't have to try to usurp that which somebody else has done. All you need to do is to study and take note and give credit where credit is due and then stand on your own 2 feet. You don't need to copy people. And this is our problem. We're too busy copying, getting down and getting funky at a time that we need to get up and do some work for our people. Copying everything white folks, cutting our noses, frying our hair, doing everything that we can do to look like somebody else. When a man like George M. James writes a book called Stolen Legacy and even offers up his life, gives his life, is murdered for writing the book. And 99% of all of us in America will never read this book. And this is a man that gave a book up to show how the Greeks took everything out of Africa. Philosophy, architecture, and you name it. They just came in, took it out, and then told a lie about it. So I get angry sometimes because we have to go through a lot to really bring information to you. You know, if you know, I see faces in here, people that I've been with for years. I've known for years, Sister Omawali and others. A number of faces I see here today. And you know, if I could tell you the brothers and sisters that we've lost along the way, brothers who've died in this struggle, you know, people's families have been destroyed in this struggle, all kinds of things have happened in the struggle, but yet we continue, I see the faces, they continue to pursue it. They don't give a damn about Superfly and the Mac and these movies that come out in the new generation of movies that they got on the scene now. We are unbending, unyielding, and we continue the course. And so I just hope, and I can't emphasize enough,